This is the Stubbed Toe Show, where Americans come to speak their minds. I'm your host, Kyle, transmitting to you from somewhere under the big sky. Joining us today is Joel Wise, who's the team lead for the Montana chapter of The Fallen Outdoors. I got into touch with you online after seeing you post about it. What is The Fallen Outdoors?
The Fallen Outdoors is a veteran and service member ran nonprofit that takes veterans and service members on therapeutic outdoor adventures. Started in an outpost in Afghanistan in 2009 by Eric Bakken and some buddies. They came back, and Eric, one of the original founders, passed on that deployment, and Eric kind of just took it and ran with it. He was stationed out in Washington, and from then it grew into now like you said, I run the Montana team, and I think we got official teams in 42 states. So we're 15 years almost 15 years. It's grown from a couple guys doing it, taking some people out fishing, some soldiers out fishing, to now it's almost entire nation. It's a real big thing. It's awesome.
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know it went that far back.
Yeah. Actually, how I found out about it, I was stationed at Fort Lewis, and I went out fishing one time and ran into Eric and taking some people out fishing. That was just how he just was there doing it. They were just I can't even remember where I was actually fishing, but they were fishing and mentioned it to me, and started following them on Facebook then. And when I got out, I went back to school in Illinois and ran into our Illinois team when I was at a hunting and fishing show, and I was working for a gun shop at the time, and I had the next day off, and I was like, hey, you guys need help tomorrow? And that's kind of how I got into it.
That's pretty cool. We talked before we started recording here that, we're actually kind of from pretty close to each other out in the Midwest, a small world.
Yeah.
So, kind of more on how you got into it. So, I guess you kind of stepped up and started taking on some duties, volunteered with it, and here you are running the Montana chapter. That's pretty cool.
And it was awesome. I mean, it's definitely trying at times. I mean, we're 100% volunteer, so every dollar we make, especially like Montana makes, our Montana team stays in our state and goes directly to our program, because none of us take any pay. We don't pay anything to our national team either. We don't have any like national fees to be a team. We pay whatever it is to the state to get us in good standing for the year, and then everything else goes right into paying for trips, gear. We sell different merch like shirts and decals and hats and things like that to raise money as well. So go to pay for that to raise more money, and could be anything from land use fees to land leases, just about anything to do with paying guides. We've done that before. It's just great to do, and I like it because it's something that I see where the money goes, of course, as the team lead. But even when I was on Illinois' team, or whenever I was just a member who was trying to go on trips, you saw exactly what the money went to and how it helps people. And it's just fun, because I think you and I both know that being outdoors and in these, either on a hunting trip, fishing trip, just sitting on a log in the woods, it's just therapeutic. Like, whether it's by yourself, whether it's with somebody you've known for your whole life, or someone you met walking into the woods, it's always a good time, and kind of gets you away from the regular part of the world.
Yeah, it's kind of like church for me, just being out by yourself. And you may have hunted more growing up than I did, but it stuck with me, the couple times I went, and I'm going to try to keep doing the same for my family. So, are a lot of people, is it their first time hunting that's signing up to go on a trip? Or
no, we get quite a few people who reach out who like, hey, I've never hunted this, or never hunted that. I mean, I have the added, I guess, knowledge of like what it was in like when I was on Illinois' team as well as here. Here, I definitely get a lot more people who are coming out to maybe visit, or they get like a special tag, and they just might want a little bit more information. So, like well, last year we had 3 vets that reached out about info about they pulled bison tags. Luckily, I have a staffer down in the area that their tags were, and I was like, "Hey, call this guy. He watches them every day. He finds out where they are, and like he'll get you on them." And all 3 of them, well, one of them was the vet's son got it or pulled the tag, and so we took him and his son out. But yeah, all 3 of them were successful. So I mean, but it's always different. Some people who just picked it up right out after they got out of the military. Some people who picked it up been doing it their entire lives, or some people who might have like a fishing background but never really hunted, or vice versa. Or maybe they hunted small game growing up, or like upland bird growing up, never hunted big game. So I mean, it's always kind of different. So you kind of just got to go with the flow on what kind of hunter you have. I've been in a duck pit or a waterfowl pit where I'm the least experienced guy there, and everyone else is a master caller. And then I've also been the person in there who's the only one who's ever picked up a call before, besides like a guide or something. So it's all varying, but the main thing is just kind of getting us out there and having that camaraderie again, getting that kind of that brotherhood back, because I know a lot of us miss out on it, and it's kind of something we miss when you kind of get back into the normal world. And that's the main goal, is kind of finding those little moments to sit there and kind of, like I said, heal. It's a little therapy for us.
Well, that's a big
And you
deal
get
for
to
a
have
lot of
fun.
people. That's why, I mean, you probably have some, and I have some. You got some lifelong friends from your time in the military, and you didn't know them that long, but there's still guys I only knew for 2 years I talk to, quite often.
Oh yeah, there's probably dang near my whole platoon that could call me right now and be like, "Hey man, you mind bringing me a Coke to Mississippi?" I'd be on my way.
That's
Like
awesome.
I mean, I mean, I got my best man at my wedding was one of my team members in my first squad whenever I got in the Army. We got to Fort Lewis. His firstborn's my goddaughter. We have been in knockout, drag out fights. Like but I call him all the time, just talking to him and seeing how him and his little family's doing. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and you kind of get that same thing with this. Like, there's a lot of us who have kind of been around the organization a while. We'll post hunts, and sometimes we get a lot of traction, and we give all our hunts away. They're a fair drawing. We usually post them in our Facebook groups, and we're like, hey, got 4 seats for a waterfowl hunt on this date. We're going to draw at 2100 Mountain Time, and to enter, you got to post quack quack, and then like we usually assign numbers to people who post and want to be on it, and we'll just do a randomized drawing from that. Like I said, there's no fee to them. The only thing they have to pay for is to get there and make sure they have their proper tags. Montana's nice though. Like if we set up Purple Heart hunts, we can usually get tags relatively easy-ish for any Purple Heart recipients. But you do have to plan that out a little bit ahead. So it can be a little bit harder to get planned out. But if we have something we know that can work, we try to do that. We actually helped assist on a Purple Heart hunt for a Marine Corps vet. He received 2 Silver Stars and a Purple Heart. Partnered with the Chris Kyle Foundation for this down in Gardner. He went on ended up being 4 days, 5 nights with a guide because of that first of the year, that blizzard that rolled through the valley. opening weekend of gun season, kind of pulled them all off the mountain pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We did, but yeah, it's fun, and you meet new people doing this too that you would think you're lifelong friends just because of the similarities you share in your life.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously it's a veteran organization or veteran centered. Like you said, the one vet's son pulled buffalo tags earlier. So is there anything stopping like somebody from saying, "Hey, my dad's an old Vietnam vet, and anyway, we could go out and hunt." But the
No,
son's not a service member. He can join. He can do it too.
no, like I mean, I had, and like I mean, sometimes depending on, of course, since we are all volunteer, we all also have our own things going on. And like I mean, I have a team of 6 people right now, including me throughout the state. A couple in Great Falls, one down in Paradise Valley, one over in or 2 over by Miles City, and then 1 over by Missoula. There's nothing stopping that, and especially if it's someone who needs a little bit extra help that maybe we're not fully capable of doing. Like we do have access to a track chair if someone needs some help, isn't able
Okay.
to walk.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Um,
that too. That's pretty cool.
yeah, we're lucky enough. One of our staffers, he before we even stood up Montana's team, he had actually already raised the fund for a track chair because he was taking vets out. And he's like, anytime you guys need it, just let me know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, if we have someone who might need a little bit more help, I'll hop in and drive over to Miles City and grab it and come back. But yeah, I mean, I think especially with big game. I like to hunt big game. I enjoy doing smaller game like upland and waterfowl more,
Mm-hmm.
especially for this because I can get more people out and at a time and get people talking and sharing stories and things like that. But big game, that's always the moments that you kind of want to share with someone that either most of the time you want to share it with someone you've been around for a long time. So we had a son who he was a vet. He reached out for his dad, who kind of in stages of life has a couple different things that are kind of harming him right now and thinks this might be his last season. So we reached out to a couple different ranches, and he had a hunt from vehicle tag, and his dad did, and so we got him out on a couple different, well, one ranch down here in Gallatin Valley, and then I mean I spent weeks trying to calling different ranches all around him. Hey, you mind having a vet come out and he's got a hunt for vehicle tag. He just really wants to get a doe with us, or his son wants to get a doe with him, or get a cow or something like that. If we have allowed it before. We're kind of being a little bit more stringent within the groups. We've had some people whose like wives join on their behalf or kids join on their behalfs, and they'll put in for trips that way because their parent or their husband doesn't have social media, but they didn't serve. And usually, like I'll tell people to do that, but it's after we meet face to face
Mm-hmm.
or talk on the phone or something like that, just so I can get a little bit more information about them because I don't want someone to try to, you know, my dad's this, and this, and then they try to sneak in on hunts. And it's like, okay, I want you to get out hunting too, but this program isn't for you. But I like doing father son or father daughter hunts. Those are always a blast, especially for like turkeys or elk or deer or anything like that. Seeing excitement of a father and their kid or a mother and their kid. It's always a good time.
Yeah. So how does what's the best way for somebody to say a vet's out there that wants to experience that camaraderie again or just have some peace of mind, get outdoors?
So
What's the best way for them to find out about a hunt and sign up for it?
So we have Facebook groups that we give all our hunts away. And like I said earlier, we got 42 official teams stood up, but we have members and probably in all 50 without a doubt. You on Facebook, just type in the Fallen Outdoors. It'll bring you to our main Facebook page. And on there, they have all the groups linked. they're not state specific groups, they're regional groups. So there's like a West Coast, which is like Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado, Utah, California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and then Hawaii, but we don't have an official Hawaii team. But like, I mean, it's the West Coast, what you'd consider all West Coast states. Then we have a Midwest, which is all the Midwestern states, South, which would be like Texas, and then all the Southern states. And then we have a Northeast group as well. And you don't have to live in the state for the most part. There are some hunts that are more state specific, especially like Montana. If you're not a resident of Montana, it's hard for you to get big game tags unless you apply, in what March is usually when I guess they draw or do the deadline. So there's some of those big games that we always post like, hey, unless you're a Montana State resident and have a general tag or whatever, or if you are from out of state and have this certain unit tag, make sure you have these before you apply. But then for the most part, you can like live in Montana and be in the southern group and or join the southern group and see a gator hunt in Florida as long as you can make it to it. Just you put in, if you get selected, you just got to make it to it.
That's awesome. And what about you mentioned the track, the mobility chair? Any other equipment you guys can help out with, tents, anything like that?
We have had some stuff donated to us. We had a veteran, his father passed, and donated a lot of his old hunting gear to us. So I do have a lot of hand-me-downs, which it's not top of the line, Sitka, First Light, stuff like that. It's, old things that, I mean, my grandpa probably grew up using. It's the old woodland camo, or like there is some duck hunting stuff in there that's like the old original duck hunting camo. It's not anything top of line, but it's stuff that if people need it, I'm always willing to let people or give to people, because you're gonna have to use it more than once for the most part. But we have had a couple things donated to us. We're planning on doing a couple different hunting camps this coming year. We're thinking of having a spring bear and then either a spring turkey or just a fish camp this summer. And then we're going to have 4 different elk camps going on. It's just going to be 4-day weekends, or like 4 days over a weekend or something like that, where we got some canvas tents for that and all the gear we need. The tents were donated to us, and we have a local business that's we're working with right now to finish up the little intangibles we need for like cots and things like that they're going to donate as well. But a lot of this stuff that we use is like my own gear or my staffer's own gear. Like I said, that track chair is one of my staffers. He's had that, or he bought that himself with money he raised. But yeah, we have a couple different things. I have quite a bit of equipment that gets donated that might be like seconds from like, actually, FHF gave us a bunch of bino harnesses. I've got quite a few bino harnesses for people they were just like, hey, it goes to vets, here you go. And that's what I've been doing, just giving them away to vets when they come out and hunts with us, because at least even if they don't get something, they got something to walk away with. No one's going to be upset with a brand new bino harness.
No. So you said you got a couple things planned this year. Anything else big coming up for the Fallen Outdoors, Montana specific, I guess?
So we have a family weekend trip coming up in second week of May. It is the weekend of the 12th. It's going to be that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be a free weekend for vets and their families. So, of course, immediate families don't bring grandma, grandpa, third cousin Larry, or anything like that. But bring your families. We're gonna have food. We're gonna have drinks. It's gonna be BYOB right off Canyon Ferry. It's at the Hell's Gate campground. We're going to spend the weekend. I think a couple people might bring their boats if we can know that quite a few are, but try to maybe do some fishing, just hanging around, camping, talking, enjoying time with family. But then, like I said, we have big plans. Our bear camp, and like I said, so that'll be like a week long. We don't know exactly where we're going with that yet. It's going to be on some public land, but we'll be able to fit 8 vets on the trip. We're going to have a week. It's just going to be camping, going out, trying to hopefully tag a spring bear, and then either a fish camp or a turkey camp. It just kind of depends on where we can set it up, and I think just what we have available spot wise and stuff like that. But then down in Paradise Valley, this coming elk and deer season, we're going to have opening weekend of bow or of archery, which I mean, I know archery, it's always so hot, so it's usually opening weekend's the worst weekend, but it's opening weekend, so you got to go out. Why not go out with a bunch of other vets? We're going to have 8 vet camp there opening weekend. We're going to try to time the rut up right too and hit another one during archery. Then we'll have opening of rifle, and then we're going to have another kind of later season rifle as well. For all of those are just going to be 4 days. Like I said, most likely down in Paradise Valley, and that'll
Mm-hmm.
be food included, everything like that. And then also we're going to have quite a bit of upland hunts. We're going to be working a lot with Rooster Ridge Hunting Club over by Missoula. We're going to have quite a few hunts with them on their preserve doing upland game. They had a European tower shoot. We had to send 2 vets out to. Seemed to have a blast.
What's that?
So European tower shoot, they have a bunch of different stations. Like sometimes it's just like a hay bale, or a roll of hay, whatever you want to call it. And they release the birds from this tower, and you cycle through the stations, and the birds are flying at you at like 30 miles an hour, shooting them. It's just like it is. Like I said, they should release from the tower. You're at the station, you shoot, then you rotate to a different station. They release more, you shoot, and then after all the birds are released, you kind of work through like you would on a regular field hunt, and pick off any remaining that you can. But it's pretty interesting. I got to take part in. I didn't go to this one, but I got to take part in one once. It was exhilarating. I didn't realize how fast they were going to come at me. When he said 30 miles an hour, they were every bit of it. Like they came out and they flew right at you. It was a pretty good time. And then, but for the most part, it's going to be just people working their dogs, walking and finding pheasants in the field.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, some of the stuff is just kind of thrown together sometimes last minute, or like, hey, I'm going out hunting and I'm going out in 3 weekends, or 3 weekends from now I'm going out. If anyone wants to join, let me know. And that's how some of these are going. Like, I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go fish the Gallatin this weekend. If anyone wants to join, someone will just be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Sounds like it's something to follow for people that are interested in that, and also to get involved in maybe some different hunting. I mean, I know a lot of big game hunters out here that don't do birds, and vice versa. But
Yeah.
from what we were talking before, kind of the area we're both from, um, I'm sure you've heard of that Macedonia Game Preserve in Illinois.
Yep.
Yeah, my dad, grandpa, and brother went out there a couple times. I never made it, but I know there's some good bird hunting down there, so you're probably still into that.
Oh yeah. Which I mean, I've went over by Macedonia a couple times. And then like I mean, bird hunting. I actually didn't really get into that until I got into Fallen Outdoors, which like I mean, we especially Southern Illinois, or at least the western side of Southern Illinois, right off the river. Waterfowl's huge. Used to be, I mean, goose heaven. People would come around for from all over the world to shoot geese right down there in Southern Illinois off the river. And it's changed a little bit since since I started, but waterfowling was big there, upland game too, and then also small game, squirrel. I remember going shooting squirrel all the time with my 22. For Southern Illinois big game, we had deer and turkey was pretty much all you had, and then you could shoot coyotes, and then it was bird hunting. That was about it.
Did you do a lot of hunting in Washington State when you were stationed up there?
Not as much I would have liked. I fished more, especially coming from the Midwest where like draws really aren't a thing. I think there's shotgun for deer is about the only draw really type of thing there is, but that's only for certain counties. That's more a draw, but it was super confusing for me. So I just didn't get the time that I would have liked to go out and hunt. So I mostly just went and fished because that was something I could, hey, I have a Sunday, Saturday off. I could find some water.
Yeah, that place you're stationed up there, that was it Joint Base?
Joint Base Lewis McChord. So it's an Air Force and Army base.
That one I remember when I was in was like the place to go. In the span I was in, a lot of people wanted to go there in my career field.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's a requested base and really requested. It rains a lot. You really only get about a month of summer. There's always like 30 to 45 days where they kind of have a drought in the summer, so you get some really good weather. But other than that, it's raining or drizzling all the time. You got great rivers right there. You got the ocean, and you got it all. Really, you can go down to Oregon. You can be in Washington. Kind of a long drive to get over the mountains and get over to the east side of the state, but yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to do. I think that was really where I realized how much I loved just being outdoors, because if I got the time, I just got to go explore, and you could explore so much. Just had to take the time to get out of Tacoma.
Yeah, well, I think it's awesome you're volunteering with this organization and putting your time in there, and obviously being an outdoorsman, what a better place to volunteer for, right?
Exactly, and I've seen what it does, and like, I mean, you could ask my wife. When I got out of the Army and went to school, I kind of fell into a rut where it's like, hey, I don't have this structure I used to, or was just kind of getting depressed. And I had never been chosen like in any of the random drawings to go on any trips before, and then I became a staffer. My first actual trip, because we always try to have a staffer on each trip, of course, just to kind of be the face of the organization, especially if we're working with another, like an outfitter or something like that. But yeah, that was my first time ever being on an actual official Fallen Outdoors trip. Was as a staffer. I joined and went on a duck hunt. We went crappie fishing, and had a guy who had donated his time, and I was a staffer for it. And this guy came out, Kenneth is his name, and we're fishing, and he's like, man, thank you so much for this. And I was like, hey man, you're welcome. And just kept on. We're out there for 6 hours on the water, just like every 30 minutes it felt like just saying thank you, and like got to the point like, man, yeah, I get it. Like, you're welcome. I'm having fun too. Like, it's all right. And after we got back, we were taking pictures and everything, and I was telling him thanks for coming out, and he's like, you have no idea how much I needed this. And he's like, last weekend, I go on a yearly hunting trip with one of my best buddies. We've done it for, I think it was like 30 years at that time. It's like the night before we were supposed to leave, he had a heart attack and died. And he's like, his funeral's tomorrow. And he's like, I just needed this. He's like, he's just like, I've been in a rut this whole week, it was a squirrel hunting trip they went on every year, just went and shot squirrels. That's all they did. And then he was a big cat fisherman and took us, I don't know how many trips he would do for us because he'd go out every day on Wren Lake and catch catfish. And he took us out on one trip. It was me, him, and two other guys. And in 4 hours, we had this big storm was coming in, so we pulled off early. 4 hours between the four of us pulled up 53 catfish. It was insane,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
and that story, that's kind of the moment I realized like how important this is. I know how it helps me, and it might not help everyone. That happens. Some people just don't have the same interaction with being outdoors. But him, like, he's like, I was just in a dark place, and he's like, I haven't had this much fun, and I can't remember. And he's like, it really helped me. I mean, I was damn near in tears when he told me that, and gave a big hug, and we're just like, yeah, this is why we do it.
Oh, that's awesome. Especially, I feel like nowadays mental health's probably the worst it's ever been. And you don't have to give your opinion if you don't agree with it, but I think it's a lot of social media and stuff. And for, anybody out there, it sounds like if you're in a rut, get away from the computer, phone, whatever, get outside. This sounds like a
Oh
good
yeah,
organization to do it with.
yeah, and I mean, like I said, my wife will tell you, like, she sees it whenever she sees me get into a rut. Because, I mean, I fight. I think we all kind of do, especially when it starts getting cold and you're not able to go out as much. But she sees me kind of throughout the year get into these little ruts of depression, and she's like, "You need to go out." And she's like, "You just need to go out, whether it's fishing, hunting, go walk in the woods, like do whatever, but you just need to go out." And that's what I do. I go take myself a forest bath, and just kind of let it soak out from under me. Might wet a line, hopefully catch something. Most of the time I don't. And it just kind of, it recenters me. And I think it does that for a lot of us because it just gives you a second to, I'm just thinking of what this water's doing, what, where I'm going,
Yeah.
how I'm going to cut off this elk, or what I'm doing at the trailhead, something like that. Like, you're just figuring out what you're doing in that moment, and you're not thinking of the 100 different other things that you got to balance throughout the day. You're just, what am I doing now?
Yeah, there's plenty of other shows and podcasts that talk about that a lot, the primal aspect of it. But it's true. I mean, it's, to me, being outside, that is reality. That's what's really going on in the world. What's going on with nature? To be out in that, it just recenters you, like you said.
Yeah. And I mean, I got the same thing. That's why I loved when I went to school for forestry. I fell in love with wildfire so much. Because I mean, as a wildfire fighter, I got to go see places that people like might not ever get to really see. Most of even the population of that state might not ever get to see. And, it's usually pretty hard work. But like, I mean, you just kind of get these moments where you're just like sitting there, like, taking a quick break, and you're like, man, look where I'm at. This is it. This is where we need to be. And just kind of let the beauty of our natural world just kind of wash you. And like you said, it's real life. Like, why be upset about something whenever we got this right here?
Yeah, that's the truth. I know, obviously, Montana hunting, a lot of people focus just on big game. I mean, especially back, kind of where we grew up, you're thinking about elk hunting out west, that kind of stuff. So, any good big game hunts you've had with the Fallen Outdoors? Any stories there you'd want to share?
Um, so like I said earlier, we partnered with kind of with the boots on the ground for Chris Kyle Foundation. They sent a Purple Heart recipient out to us. It wasn't a successful hunt. He got a couple shots at stuff, but wasn't able to get anything on the ground. But I mean, we like the night he flew in, we went and had drinks down in Gardner, and kind of little social hour, and then whole way up the mountain, we're just talking. And it was me, it was then one of my staffers, Chet, who lives down in Gardner. So I was in Afghanistan. Chet was in Desert Storm, and then our Marine Purple Heart recipient, he was in Iraq and Afghanistan as well, and was retired. What would it be? Is it No, it's not master sergeant for them. I always forget their ranks. But like what a sergeant major would be for the Army. So I mean, really, for the most part, three different generations of military people, and we were just talking about just different places we had been that were like, oh yeah, I was there, or oh hey, I was there too, and or like me and Eric had times that we overlapped at the same place and just didn't even know it. Like it's always cool to see that. As far as hunts where we were successful, probably a conservation hunt down in southern Illinois for snow geese. If people don't know, if your listeners don't know, conservation season for snow geese, it's no plugs in your shotgun and it's unlimited bag limit. So, and you could get tornadoes of like 10,000 snow geese just coming down on you. We harvested between the 8 of us, I think like 20 or so that day. But then it kind of died down later in the day, and we were all just chilling in the pit, just talking. And one guy had brought his rescue dog. She's a little Yorkie. we were trying to take pictures of her, acting like she had retrieved all of them, and we just were having a blast. And then of course nothing was flying, so then we're just messing around with like the fan, acting like the big old fan that looks like a snow goose. And we ended up jumping out of the pit for lunch and ran down to this little dive bar called the Revlon, and all got food, great bar food, and came back, and like we slept on these horrible bunks, but we all had a blast. Like those guys still reach out all the time or send pictures from that. But we were sending pictures of like tons of swans that were like on the ground or something, and we'd send them to one of our team lead in Illinois at the time. Be like, hey, yeah, we got this real big snow goose down, which you can't shoot tundra swans in Illinois. So he was all calling us all freaking out and stuff. But other than that, like, I mean, it's most of them are just that. Like, they might not be super successful hunts, but they're memorable. Like, I mean, walking through a bunch of flooded buckbrush, tearing your waders, trying to retrieve a wood duck that someone shot, and just filling up your waders with cold water or ice, whatever. Most of the time we're breaking ice. It's just stuff like that. I don't know if any of my super successful hunts have been ones that are as memorable as those, though. We've taken a grandpa vet and his grandson out so his grandson could shoot his first turkey. We've done that. Like, that's always, oh my gosh, those are my favorite. I love getting younger people into hunting because that's what we are as sportsmen.
Yeah.
We are preserving the sportsman way of life and trying to pass it on to the next generation. And I love doing those, grandson or son hunts and stuff like that, because those are always a blast, because you get to see, might be that first person's harvest or that little kid's first harvest, and seeing a big smile on their face.
Oh yeah. They'll remember that forever.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I do. My target bull this year, I didn't see him opening weekend of rifle season. We were driving around trying to just looking different places, and come across this kid, his first year able to hunt, and in the back of his dad's trucks, there's this bull that we had all been watching, and I mean, it was just so awesome to see, a 13-year-old kid get this giant bull that we all were salivating at, to getting the chance, that had been hanging out in my buddy's backyard, and then this kid gets it, and we're all like, yes. You get that initial sadness that you don't get a chance anymore, but you get to see that kid smile, and it's like, oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah. That's great for that kid. He's going to be chasing that forever.
I know. What a way to be spoiled your first time. Like you gotta take a cow the first time so you don't build it up too much. Now he's gonna be wanting world class bulls the rest of his life.
Oh, he's ruined.
Nice. I mean, it was a nice chocolate horns on it too. It was a beautiful bull, and I'd seen I don't know how many mornings just drinking on the Yellowstone, and then this kid gets it, and I'm like, man, his dad even said it's like, he's ruined. Yep, he's got it. He's gonna be in debt the rest of his life trying to chase that.
Oh yeah. So we talked about veterans being able to reach out to get in on a hunt. What about people wanting to volunteer? I assume it's probably preferable to have veterans be the volunteers helping out, to relate and stuff. But
Yes.
do you have a need for volunteers?
Yeah. So I mean, so we have our pro staffers, and they're not professional staffers. We call them they're promotional staffers. And to be a pro staff, you do have to be a vet or currently serving. Um, and those are the people who like will work, do fundraising events like going to businesses and approaching them, helping put together hunts or fundraising events like being at the state fair here. Like we did the state fair this summer in Bozeman, and then we'll be at the over in Billings the Great Rocky Mountain Sports Show here in January. I think the 19th, weekend of the 19th. That would be things like that they do. But if like to volunteer your time to help put on a hunt or want to help work the shows, as long as it's as a volunteer, they don't have to be a vet. Like, I mean, I'd love to. There's been plenty of shows where it's just me working, for 3 or 4 days, 12 hours a day. like, have a little break would be great. But yeah, I'm always looking for volunteers, even if it's someone who's like, hey, I got a drift boat. I can take 2 people out, things like that. Or, hey, I got some land that has cows or doe or something on it, like in this area. So if you want to take some guys out here or take some vets out here, and we'll do a little, you guys can hunt here or anything like that, or you, like I said, work a show with us. I mean, my wife helps out a lot with this. She's worked dang near every show that I have with me. So, I mean, not to be a volunteer, not be a vet, you don't have to be, as long as you are willing to kind of talk about the organization, talk it up. But to be a promotional staffer, you do. And to actually join the organization, of course, you have to be a vet or currently serving.
Mm. Oh, it's awesome though. Sounds like you said, land access, gear, money. Any of that's welcome. You guys are nonprofits, so that's pretty legit.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, every dollar stays, at least, I mean, any dollar that comes to us stays, like, it comes to Montana, stays in Montana. We don't pay anything to our national organization. We're all like, I mean, I think we pay the state at something like 35 or $40 or something to file our nonprofit for a nonprofit status each year, and then every other dollar goes right into paying for these hunts or trips. One thing we started doing in Illinois right before I left, and it's really caught on across our states, is doing women only trips. I think like I was an infantryman in the Army, so it was a male only job. I had experiences that like the women might not have had, but they've also had experiences that I never even would have crossed my mind. And it's something that I think has been really beneficial to them, because I know that there's been a lot of our female members who might not feel as comfortable on mixed trips, but they do a couple women only trips, and then they're like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll come to this camping trip, or hey, I'd love to go on that 4-day elk hunt or something like that, where there's going to be guys with it too, and just kind of gets them more comfortable realizing like, hey, you have a spot here, and you're always welcome.
I think it's awesome you spend your time doing this, and everybody else that's the staffers on it. It's a cool organization.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely now that it's picking up, I find myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want a little bit of a break. Like, when am I supposed to do my own hunt stuff? But then, like I said, I get to go out and I see what these people do on these trips and the thanks and everything like that, and I'm like, I'll eat tag soup rest of the year if it means I get to have some of these experiences with these vets that come out. I think just about any of us would take that.
If anybody wants to reach out to volunteer, reach out to be a part of the hunt, etc., what's the best way to contact you again?
So best way to get in contact with me, especially if you have more Montana specific questions, is either via email, which is M as in Mary, T.lead at thefallenoutdoors.org. Or you can always contact me on my cell phone. I do work a regular 9 to 5, so it's if you try to call most weekdays, I'm usually busy. But you can also call or text me 618-554-1953 if you got any questions, and I can do my best to answer them.
Awesome. I appreciate you joining the show and talking about the Fallen Outdoors. And appreciate your time. Appreciate you volunteer for it.
Oh yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. I hope we get more people out for this and at least show people what we have to offer in the state. And like I said, just kind of get back out and get back healing.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Stubbed Toe Show. Contact information for Mr. Joel Wise and the Fallen Outdoors is listed below in the video description.
It's all right. Yeah, let's go hunting, baby. Say, Fred, you go up that ridge, and I go down in the swamp. We'll get that buck.
If some of our teenage thrill seekers really want to go out and get a thrill, let them go up into the northwest and tangle with a grizzly bear, a polar bear, and a brown bear. They'll get this that will cleanse the soul.